Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome. So, we are back with another book review. Okay. And if you watched the first one, believe everything that you think, which is, I will say, my book of the year. Honestly. I use the things from that book every single day. Not gonna hold you. I have this thing, real quick. I know we're talking about the next one. I'll let you know in just a second. But every day, one of the key things I took from the book of, just a quick recap, is when I do have like a negative thought or a thought that I don't understand or a thought that doesn't mean me any good, I literally, in my mind, erase that thought and put a new one there. And I keep moving on with the day. I don't get stuck in that dark thought or whatever you want to call it. I just erase it in my mind. I'd be like, nah, I don't like the idea of that. And I just take an eraser in my mind, erase it, and put something new. And honestly, it's been working. Because like Joseph said, don't believe everything you think. So, today, we are reviewing Identity Switch by Adrianna Mason. And if you don't know who Adrianna Mason is, she is the daughter of April Mason, the femininity coach, if you don't know who Auntie April is, okay? Auntie April is the truth. So is Adrianna. This is the second Identity Switch book that has came out. The first one was written by April Mason, and I've read that one too. Awesome, amazing. I read that one a few years ago, but it still has some really good points. So I could do a book review on that one too, because it was absolutely great, and it was coming from the mama. But this one by Adrianna Mason is talking about transitioning into womanhood. So, I mean, if you're in that space, this was a very, very good read. Even though I've never been married before, I don't have children or anything like that, still, like, when I listen to people's stories, I learn from them. Like, I'm not the person that needs to hit the wall. I could see a person hit the wall and say, okay, I see everything they did to hit that wall, so let me make sure I don't do that, and I don't hit that same wall, and I don't go through those same things. So for me, I love listening to people and having conversations with people that I technically don't relate to all the way, but I mean, those same lessons in life can be used in other areas with totally different things. So I don't have to necessarily, be in the same boat or the same predicament to learn. And I found that out many, many ways. But these chapters where I knew that this book was going to be something special was because of the name of these chapters. We're going to go through them really quickly. Becoming broken, becoming a teen mom, becoming a wife, becoming divorced, becoming aware, becoming intentional, becoming in alignment, and becoming a woman, plus a bonus chapter, right? So we're gonna break this up into two for sure, because I feel like the first part is talking about a very particular part of her life, especially with her being a teen mom. So it kind of shows, like, goes into childhood versus young woman. And then the second half is when she transitioned into a woman. And then it's a very, also, the way she flows the book, it's a very clear distinction of the two different places she was in. When, how the Bible says, when you're a child, you do childish things, but when you grow up, you leave those childish things behind. It's a very clear distinction of when she was one way, how she reacted, how she responded, the decisions that she made, versus when she actually became a woman and how her whole world and reality was completely different. So I want to break those two up and into two parts. So let's get right into the first chapter. I have notes, of course, about becoming broken. So she talks about her childhood, how she moved from California to Georgia. She went to 6 different high schools. She was bullied and insecure, and she also had low self-esteem. She was a tomboy until she was 17. Right? And which at 17 is when she decided she wanted to have a boyfriend. You know, she wanted to have a boyfriend. She was a little boy crazy. So she was like, okay, like, you know, it's time for me to switch this up so, you know, boys will actually like me. She mentions how she wasn't getting a lot of attention or affection at home. Her mother, Auntie April, that's my auntie, y'all. And actually another thing I want to insert really quick. Oh, I love this book so much, and I wanted to review it. I've been very, very excited to review it. Is the fact that I've met them both. I met April and I've met Adrianna. I met April. She had an event on a ranch in Georgia. You had to be like 2016 or 2017, and we spent the day with her at this ranch, and we had campfires, and we had activities, we had horseback riding, like, it was good. But Adrianna came with the husband that she actually talks about in this book. With the husband, with the kid, I want to say, because I think she ended up having 3 kids, so I don't remember if it was 3, but I know, like, the kids came, Adrianna was there, the husband was there, met April, and, like, so I feel like these my little people in my head. I'm not even gonna hold you. So to hear her, for me to be able to, like, hear her childhood and what she actually went through and overcame, kind of felt like I was listening to my cousin or something. You know what I mean? Like I was talking to I think I'm older than her because I'm 33, but you know, I was talking to a family member, and she was just telling me, like, look, don't go do what I've been through. That's kind of how I took the book. But anyways, so she didn't have much love or affection at home. Her mother, though, was married, and but it wasn't a very loving, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a relationship that you would mock or you would, you know, kind of want to have later. It was kind of just a come and go type of relationship or whatever that was. She wasn't that close to the stepdad, you know, just that type of scenario. She talks about how she was very good at writing. Extremely good at writing. Like, she wrote poems, and, you know, she was in different shows at school, and she was known for, you know, the poems that she wrote, and, you know, her very good writing skills. So she met a boy in her songwriting / producing class, and from this which happened to be her boyfriend that, you know, she was with during high school, and she talks about how she got a full ride scholarship to FAMU and found out that she was pregnant after her first time of having sex. So then she goes into becoming a teen mom, right? So she talks about how she was pressured by her friends to have sex. That wasn't even nothing that was on her mind. That wasn't anything that the boy had pressured her to do or anything like that. Her friends would say things like, man, you know, like, if you don't give it to him, somebody else will. And what you think he's doing when he's not with you, you know, was just saying different things. And she was just like, oh my God, you know, like, maybe, you know, I should consider, you know, having sex, you know. So basically, she made a decision that she wasn't quite ready for, you know, that she wasn't ready for, or that she wasn't, it doesn't sound like he was ready for either. Neither one of them were ready. You know, they were just, you know, peer pressure is real at that age. So I get it. But, you know, she's very transparent and open about that. So I really appreciate that. It made me call my little sister and be like, you be seeing pregnant girls at school? Like, you know, girls that be having sex? Because I know how that could be. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be a part of the conversation. You want to have a story. You want to, you know what I mean? Like, you're interested. It's normal. So she talked about how she didn't have hard conversations with her mom. They didn't talk about sex. They didn't talk about boys. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have those in-depth conversations that she needed before she got to this point. She took accountability, which I thought was amazing. And she talked about how basically she was looking for this 17-year-old boy to fix her brokenness, the issues that she had, because she had low self-esteem. She had daddy issues. She hadn't seen her daddy for years, once they moved to Georgia. So she had daddy issues. She had low self-esteem issues. She, didn't love herself. And she was looking for this boy to like fulfill all that. And of course, he couldn't. They were together 9 months before they ended up having sex, and like I said, she got pregnant the first time she ever had sex. 18 years old, she was pregnant, became a teen mom. But she was determined a better life for her daughter. So she worked, she got her a really good job. She ended up moving in with the father and his mother that, helped out quite a bit with the baby, while she worked and just got her stuff together. She ended up, separating herself from that relationship, and she becomes a homeowner at 21 years old. She has a kid and she owns a home at 21 years old, and she has a great job. I can't remember exactly what the job is. I think she said she was a dispatcher, a 911 dispatcher, or she was something like that. She ended up, getting that position. And so she was working for the state of Georgia. She has a kid and she's a homeowner at 21. So right there, I just want to say, that right there, depending on how old you are, you can remember the Divide commercial when the guy is like, get up off the couch, what are you doing? Go to school. If I could do it, anyone can do it. I never used to understand why he said that. I'm just like, what do you got to do with me? But what he's saying is, I'm just a normal person. And if I got up and I made it happen and I went and took the steps and, now I'm in a better position, like anyone could do it because I'm no different than you. Or, I may be even worse than where you are right now because I was just sitting at home on my couch with no nothing, and now I'm here. And maybe that's not your reality. You know what I mean? Maybe you're further ahead than that, but you're just stuck, and look, like you could be in the same position. So what I got from this, from her being so open about what she was dealing with and what she had accomplished by 21, I was just like, wow, that's commendable. Because if you did that with a child, if any woman who reads this book and you don't have a child, that lets you know that what she accomplished is 100 times more doable for you. You know what I mean? So I thought that was amazing. She says she also wrote her first book at this time, at about 21, 22, wrote her first book, and it was called Young Mother Sucker. I'm actually going to get that book. I'm going to review that one too, if it's on Amazon. But she talks about how she's still broken and she meets she runs into a guy from her past that I believe she went to middle school with, and that's who she ends up marrying. Now she's about to become married. Also, another thing I want to point out is in between all these chapters, she has questions, right, to ask yourself and to reflect on. For example, after becoming broken, a few questions that she has for you to ask yourself is, who had the biggest influence on me as a child? What communication patterns did I develop as a child? What love was love shown in my house? Who did I look up to? Each chapter, there's 10 questions at the end of the chapter, just for you to reflect, just for you to just in case there's some unanswered things or some things that you uncover while you're reading this book, right? So after chapter 2 of becoming a teen mom, the questions that she have to reflect on are, was I pressured into sex? Do I have trust issues? Have I always felt loved or heard? Was I looking for love in the wrong places? Did I lose my virginity by choice? If so, was it worth it? So she at the end, you know, not only after she answers all of those questions within her story, you can ask yourself that when it comes to, let's say if you are a teen mom, you know what I mean? Let's say if you did have sex early. Let's say if you were broken as a child and now you're trying to heal that and you're trying to overcome that. You know, these questions are vital and can get you to opening up or cracking that next level of healing. So from becoming a teen mom, she talks about becoming a wife. She talks about another very, very transparent moment with her. She talks about how she wasn't whole, and that how now she understands that her going into her first marriage not being whole resulted in her choosing the wrong partner. You know, she chose him based off of history and, oh, like, you know, he loves me and he likes me, and you know what I mean? I want to say he had a kid too. So she has a kid and he has a kid. So to them, they're like, oh, okay, like we relate to each other. Like, you know, and that's the definition of trauma bonding. Like, you kind of develop this connection based off of your bad experiences. And before, when I've heard trauma bonding, I kind of got it, and I didn't really get it until this last situation I was in, where I was like, that's where that love came from. That love came because our childhoods were very similar. Like the things that we felt as children, the aloneness and the darkness we felt as children, that's what made us so close and so like, oh man, you get me, you understand me. But just because you've have the same experience as somebody, that doesn't make y'all compatible. That doesn't mean that, you know, you guys are meant for each other, unfortunately. If anything, like, you're kind of dating your broken self. It's just outside of your body. Like, you see your brokenness in another person, and you have to figure out how to navigate that while they're looking at their brokenness in you and they trying to figure that out, you know? So it's not the best thing, basically, is what I realized as I was reading it. She says how they basically bonded on trauma. When you do this, you bond on trauma versus values. And I was like, wow, that's real. And also, too, reading this chapter, I thought about how many times I've almost done that. So I was like, dang, and for her to just put it in context like that, like, man, you have to choose. You're bonding over trauma and not the things that you want out of life, and not the things that matter when it comes to a relationship, that actually makes a relationship flourish and grow. So I really appreciated her being so open about her first marriage, honestly. Then she goes on to talk about, as far as the values, the worker's mindset versus the entrepreneur mindset. Her first husband, he, you know, 9 to 5, let's go to work, let's get this money, let's save, let's be like very traditional. Whereas her and her mother, they're very entrepreneur, like, let's create, let's be feminine and soft. And all April Nation talks about is, as a feminine woman, you create money. You don't chase money, you create it. And you create it through your creative mind by building businesses, by writing books, making content. You know what I mean? Like, you create your money. You figure out what it is that you're good at, and you make a business out of it, and you sell it, and you make a profit. Like, as feminine women, we create money. And I took a few classes because I was just like, girl, like, how? Like, that don't make sense. But it's really what I just explained. Like, you're good at something, figure out a way to capitalize on that. No matter what it is. If you have mastered if you're really good at doing hair, start doing content on TikTok or something. You know what I mean? Like, start being creative. There's a girl that does really good makeup, and she does it herself. And she be doing like, child, she be having like mermaid, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, she's showing off her makeup skills. And I don't even wear makeup, but her skills are fire. So she does content, and she does her full face or whatever, and she reveals it to I want to say it's her husband, and then he's like, oh my god, like, you know, like like every time she does a new makeup video, it's better and better and better. So her man is like, oh my god, like, you outdoing yourself. You know what I mean? Like, he's just cheering her on, you know, encouraging her to keep going, and like, he's surprised and very like impressed with her work. And she's doing that content, getting millions and millions of views. But you know what that also is gonna eventually do? Someone's gonna contact her. Someone's gonna get her DM. Someone's gonna book her and make her their permanent makeup artist, because she is bomb at like the drastic makeup. You know, like, it almost reminds me of, I want to say like drag or plays or something like that. You know what I mean? So like, anybody who's in that field, they come across her, she's gonna have a bag. And she created that herself by showcasing her skills. You know what I mean? By putting that. So that's the entrepreneur mindset, and it's not for everyone, because when you create that money, there's gonna be moments where the money is a little funny, honey. You know, it ain't coming in like, you know, a traditional job would. Whereas if you trade in your time, they're gonna give you a guaranteed check. You know what I mean? Entrepreneurship isn't like that. And when you have a partner where you haven't had that discussion, or they're not on that type of page, or they don't understand that can cause conflict. And basically, what she was saying, that was a lot of, you know, the issues in her first marriage. She was both unfulfilled and they were unequally yoked because of their mindset on money, on family, on values, on all type of things. They end up they were together for 4 years, married for 2, and she had 2 kids before she filed for divorce. The questions that she asked about reflecting on is, am I ready to be a wife? Would I make a good partner? Do I know my core needs? Okay. To be honest, when I was looking at those questions, I'm 33 right now. And in my early 20s, I wanted to be married by the time I was 30. I was convinced I'm gonna be married by the time I'm 30. Like, I'm gonna be married. I'm gonna buy me a condo. I'm having some kids. I had it all figured out. Do you know, when I turned 30, that's when I realized that I didn't have the qualities to even be a wife? I didn't. And by the time I was 30, I've had friends that are both married, that were getting married, and that were getting divorced at 30. And as I'm listening to these different women in these different situations, I'm like, I'm not even ready for that. When I'm looking at the woman that's getting married and the woman and the women that I know that are already married, I came to the conclusion I don't even have those qualities. And when I talked to the woman that was getting a divorce, I was like, this would be me. I think like this, I act like this. I choose from this lens that I'm hearing her choose from and judge her relationship on. I'm like, ooh. So when I'm reading these questions and she says, do I know my core needs? Do I have realistic expectations of a relationship? Do I know what to look for in a partner? Why would someone want to marry me? Am I emotionally and mentally ready for a husband? Those are some real questions. And I remember a few years ago, somebody asked me, she said, what is a husband to you? And I was like, girl, you know. She's like, no, I don't. What is it? I was like, I really couldn't even answer. I was like, girl, you want a husband for what? Just to say that? Cause, girl, what? You gonna do the work for real? Do you know what that comes with for real? Like, I really had to think about that. And then I was just like, you know what? Yeah, let me prepare for what I'm asking for. So when I get it, it sticks and I keep it. And we have longevity. So going into right before the divorce, they were together for 4 years, married for 2, and they had 2 kids within their marriage before getting divorced. Then she talks about becoming divorced at the age 25. She's not that old at all. Very fast life. I couldn't imagine at 25 if she had already wrote a book, she had already been a mother, she already bought a home, she already been a wife. Like, Jesus, what was I doing at 25? I still had roommates and I was working at the school district making like $20,000 a year. Like, I was looking like, wow. Like, she's intense. Like this is intense. Like, her telling her, like, I really, Adrianna, if you see this, I commend you for, I knew you were a teen mom. Like, you know, April has talked about it, you know, briefly in her content over the years, like briefly, but I didn't realize that you were that young, you have been through that much. As it, like, you know, thank you very, very much for sharing your story. Because even though that's not my reality, I'm not a teen mom, and I, you know, I haven't been a wife yet or anything like that, I had to ask myself some real questions. I had to reflect on those questions at the end of these chapters. I learned from what you shared about being a wife, and then what I'm about to talk about now, and after you became divorced. So I can make sure that as I'm transitioning into womanhood, that I understand where I'm going in that path. So thank you. Seriously, thank you. So in becoming divorced, she talks about how she was extremely angry, but at herself, because she went into this marriage with 1 kid, and then now she's divorced and she has 3 kids. Like, what? I'm worse off. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that thought of, what in the world? Like, how did I get here? Like, ooh. I remember almost being in that situation. Ooh. Jesus, I remember. She talks about how she had to choose marriage she had to choose alignment over marriage. No, she talks about how important it is marriage versus alignment when it comes to alignment. that you should be aligned, which is why she said they didn't have the same mindset and they didn't have the same values and they didn't have the same thing like that. So she realized that that's where she went wrong, is that they weren't aligned in their marriage. They didn't have those talks about, hey, how does this look for you? How should we do this? How will we do that? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have those conversations before you intertwine your life like that and become husband and wife. And I was like, made me get to talking to my significant other. Like, we talk about marriage, but how you be saving? Like, what do saving look like to you? What does, how much would you contribute to the saving? Like, what type of, how will we be getting money? Because I'm trying to transition into this entrepreneur thing. I want to get off of trucks. So what does that look like? And you know what I mean? Like, it made me start to have those conversations. So she's talked about how, she has looked at it as freedom to pursue her purpose and potential. She was able to start making $2,000 per month 6 months after her divorce, which basically, because she lives very below her means, and she don't spend any extra money or anything like that. So her securing that $2,000 per month with her entrepreneur, feminine, creative mindset 6 months after being divorced was amazing, because she said that she couldn't, like, her finances was up and down in the marriage. And a lot of times, one thing that she pointed out was, when you not with the right person, y'all never gonna catch a break. You'll never see that breakthrough. It'll always just be peaks and valleys. You'll always just be up and down. You'll be in and out of darkness. You know what I mean? Like, it'll never be just smooth sailing. It'll just always be 1 minute you up, 1 minute he down, 1 minute he up, 1 minute you know what I mean? Like, you'll just never be where everything is just cool and calm waters. And I can totally relate and agree to that. It's like, yo, what? And that's how I knew. I said, this ain't that hard. I've done this by myself. So when someone came into my life and everything was just turned upside down and just in the negative and just bad, and done, I said, this ain't it. So when she said that, I said, girl, yep, you ain't lying. I heard, And if you don't know this, you'll be in a situation and you'll think that this is just normal. You'll think, okay, we'll get over this. We'll get through this. It's not normal. It's not. That's struggle love. That's a forced relationship. You're in a situation that isn't for you. That's the first sign of that, honestly. She says she changed her home environment. She repainted the house. She did new decor. She made it feel like a home. She turned it into her actual sanctuary, where she brought in peace and love and happiness and joy and all the things that, she kind of just lost sight of, just being in that marriage, which that happens when you're not aligned, or, you're just not in the right space for a long period of time. She said she started to heal the little girl on the inside, because she realized that that's who chose that partner. It was the little girl who needed to be loved and saved and needed, you know what I mean, that was still insecure and still had low self-esteem and still had all those little things. That's who chose someone that didn't have her shared values, that didn't have those certain conversations that should have been had. Then she talks about her mom eventually told her, like, okay, time to get back out there. We got to get you remarried and, all that. And she said that she started to meet very great men that were actually very interested in taking care of her and her 3 children. Despite the internet telling us that don't no man got time for that. And that if you got kids and if you this and you that you probably gonna be single for the rest of your life. And we're gonna stop there because from there, that's where the shift happens. And she goes into the next chapter, which is becoming aware. Because she's seeing everything totally shift after she's become divorced. At this point, she's when she starts to talk to these men and all that, it's coming on about 2 years after her divorce. And she's noticing the shift, and she's noticing what she's now attracting now that she's done the work and she's learned from her mistakes. And she's, let go and walked away from her past self and that little hurt girl. And I can't wait to get into that because it was so good. I was so excited. But I'll end it with the questions that she has the reader reflect on after becoming divorced. Do I value myself? Am I proud of the woman I am today? Do I have standards? Do I give myself grace? Am I okay with requiring people to treat me the way I know I deserve to be treated? I was looking at these questions like, wow, you really do have to know yourself and stand firm on your square of I know who I am, I know what I deserve, I know what I've been through, I know what I've overcome, I've done the work. And you got to be willing to walk away for your own sanity. Because for whatever reason, walking away for your happiness it sounds crazy. Like, people don't agree with that, especially men. Men out here are saying that a woman will choose her happiness over her family. And I get where they're going with that, but if mama not okay, nobody's okay. Same thing as dad. Dad's not okay, nobody's okay. I don't think a man or a woman should stay anywhere they're unhappy. I think you should come together and figure out what will bring that happiness back into the relationship. And if it's nothing, because a lot of people are just not aligned. A lot of people have made mistakes in the partner that they've chosen, and they're just afraid to admit that mistake. And I need you to understand that it's okay to make mistakes. You can come back from the mistakes. You can erase the mistakes and start over. Don't be afraid to admit that you made a mistake. No matter how deep you are into that mistake. Because the longer you stay in that mistake, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. I'd rather be $1,000 in debt than $100,000 in debt. Don't just keep going because you're already in debt. I'm already in debt. Might as well go to 5. Might as well go to 25. Might as well go to 50. Like, no. Before you get to 100, you could have stopped anywhere between 1 and 99. I'm stopping. Okay, let me stop right here, because clearly I don't know what I'm doing. I have to stop and go back to the drawing board. Don't be afraid to do that. Do not be afraid to say you made a mistake, because you're human and nobody's perfect. And I'll see you in part 2. Can't wait to get into it.